of faith. He had an advantage over me in preaching. One, he's Jesus. Two, he had nature as a backdrop to illustrate and to validate his words. So when I teach you about a storm, you've got a padded chair and an air-conditioned room, climate controlled to, we keep it cold here, 59 degrees. Do that to keep you awake. But Jesus, see, I think that the fact that he was standing by the Sea of Galilee that's shaped like a harp is an indication that this body of water would be an instrument in the hands of the master teacher to give the lessons that his disciples would need after he had left them in the body to carry on with the task of spreading the gospel. It's much more effective to teach about how to change a flat tire if you have one right now. It's much more effective to teach about how to survive a storm if you're going through one right now. So when Jesus taught his disciples about faith, it was not a doctrinal seminar. It was not what fear is false evidence appearing real, or whatever the acronym is. Have you heard these things before? It wasn't cute. It was a matter of life and death. So when they learned the lesson of faith, it was against the backdrop of their greatest fear. He was standing by the lake. Peter didn't know what would happen on that lake. Peter didn't know one day he'd be walking on that water, coming to Jesus. He certainly didn't know when he stepped out of the boat to walk on the water that 5 seconds later he'd be gasping for breath. Save me, Lord. But Jesus knew that at that moment. It is called the foreknowledge of God, or if you like, predestination. It means that Jesus saw Peter walking on the water before he ever even got in Peter's boat. It means Jesus knew he would help Peter up before Peter ever started to sink. It means that Jesus knew what would happen to you in your childhood before he called you into this season of your own parenting. It means that Jesus knew that you would be at church today because somebody dragged you so he could get you this word that he needs you to hear. He knew. God knows. We say that almost like a cuss word. God knows. Oh, God knows when the kids are going to be back in school full time. God knows when the alpha, beta, gamma, delta variants are all going to pass through and we can all go back. God knows who's going to be in White House. God knows. God knows what's going to happen on the sea. One time, I'm sorry, y'all. I know I'm like overexcited and it's a little off-putting. But one time, he sent the disciples ahead of him into a storm and stayed back and prayed. I said he sent them into a storm. I said he sent them into a storm. Oh, well, maybe he didn't know it was going. Maybe he didn't check the weather before he sent them out. His word is the weather forecast. Ask Elijah. Elijah said, it's not going to rain until I say so again from the word of God that comes from my mouth. If Elijah had that kind of power, the prophet, over nature, what kind of power does Jesus have over the situations of your life? He's God. He's sovereign. He's the bread of life. He's the solid rock. And he's the living water. Oh yeah. The solid rock. We sing about, on Christ the solid rock I stand. Absolutely. He's a firm foundation. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. God doesn't change like the shadows change. God doesn't change like your best friend changes. God doesn't change like your hair color changes. God doesn't change like cultural climates change. But see, the same God who could be called the solid rock is also the living water. He was standing by the sea because he wanted to teach you that real faith not only has to be solid, it has to be fluid.